So, a warm welcome to our today's first Creating People Advantage seminar. My name is Philip Gullo and I will guide you through today's session. Let me in the beginning very briefly show you what's the agenda for the next hour. Bob Morton as the president of the WFPMA and Jens Bayer as a senior partner and managing director of BCG will give a kind of a short welcome and introduction to our joint partnership and an overall background on the study. My colleague and myself will guide you through the highlights of the findings in a very kind of sneak preview, but we would really love to discuss the results and what it means with our extended panel later on, and would also very welcome your Q&As. So whenever you spot something comes up, please use the question and answer button in the webinar, and we'll try to kind of manage and moderate them also in the panel discussion as possible. Finally, we will have a very brief wrap up. So with further ado, Bob, Jens, the floor is yours.
Okay, Jens, you're first, I think.
Okay, so thanks, Philip, for the nice introduction. So maybe just a brief word to myself. So my name is Jens Bayer, a partner at BCG, 20 years with the company, and I'm leading our HR topic. And together with the WFPMA, we have jointly relaunched our Creating People Advantage study, which you will see in a second. Oh, maybe.
Thank you. Thanks, Jens, and I'm delighted to welcome everybody to this webinar. As you all know, in response to COVID-19 pandemic, the people profession around the world have stepped up to support people and organizations in just adapting to a new normal and trying to cope with the pandemic. But one of the results of this is HR is now at the front and center of organizations as we look to the future beyond the pandemic. And HR is shaping the new future. The profession, I'm proud to say, is leading change to improve working lives. However, as we look to the future, it's important that the profession continues to lead change and doesn't slip back into traditional ways of thinking and working that were prevalent before the pandemic. So the 2021 Creating People Advantage study is therefore very timely and provides critical, quantitative, supported guidance for people management professionals and other leaders, including CEOs, aiming to build a future-proof workforce and a workplace to support the execution of our company's strategies. So the aims of the study are to holistically assess the status quo of topics that are most urgent in terms of improving HR departments and our capabilities around the globe. And we'll say more about that later because this is a really unique study. We want to provide in-depth perspectives and best practice on key topics for the HR function. And this study, rather than taking a macro view, also dives into the micro where we look at 32 different topics within the whole range of HR practice. And it's also very crucially to enable HR leaders to drive future business success. And next slide, please, Stephanie. And I just want to say a little bit about that this is a unique study. It's a unique collaboration in that it provides insight into current and future HR capabilities and will enable you to develop a roadmap for action in your organizations. It is a unique collaboration, originally starting, you'll hear a little bit more about this later, back in 2008. So we have longitudinal data of different types where we can compare and contrast and see the shift over time in what's happening in the profession. BCG, as we all know, are extremely experienced and expert in this field, and the World Federation has brought to the party the fact we have 5 continental federations and associations as our members, and they in turn represent 90 national associations around the globe who represent over 660,000 members. So this is a study which I'm looking forward to the results of, which will give us some great insight from across the globe into our future agenda for action. Thank you.
If you go to the next, and the Creating People Advantage study is a study with a quite long tradition, right? The first report came out in 2007, 2008. We had at that time 4,700 participants. It had a global focus. Then we had a European study in 2009, another one in 2010, a global study. And the last study actually out of the series was published in 2014, 2015. And then we decided in 2016, it was a purely digital format, a little bit smaller, but then we really decided this as one of the biggest and most comprehensive HR studies in the world to do a relaunch. And we worked together with the WFPMA in 2020. We put our teams together and we started this truly global study, as you can see on the next slide, where we covered more than 113 countries worldwide. We had more than 6,600 participants from across the globe, from different industries. We are really relatively balanced in terms of regional split. We consciously decided not only to talk to HR people, we would also like to understand, what's the perspective of our internal customers, right? So therefore, we had like 1/4 of participants came from non-HR functions, and we are able to compare really the answers from the HR perspective, but also from the non-HR perspective. We're covering different industries, from service industry to industry, healthcare, and others, but also the public sector. And we are also able to split results not only by the industry or regional split, we can also split by the level of hierarchy of the respondents. Yeah, so we can see, are there any differences talking to different hierarchical level of our of different organizations. So fully comprehensive. And now I think we should really start with why you joined this webinar, right? We will go into the details, at least already share with you some kind of sneak preview on the really truly interesting content.
Cool, thanks, Jens. Then let's jump into the content. So what we did, we basically painted this landscape of HR topics. Two major topics in HR function or the HR topic itself may cover. So a very in addition, we basically also to structure a little bit and guide our analysis and also the results later on a little bit more. We clustered them into 9 specific clusters. They range from topics like people in HR strategy planning and analytics to really the HR operating model, so running an HR function and everything what is basically in functional perspective in between. So that's the basis. We can draw all our cuts and all our analysis on all these various topics. And we asked in the main part of the survey 2 questions, and the next page shows you the results of the first question. The first question asked to rate the participants on their current capabilities. So along all 32 topics, the survey participants said how high, and that's what you see, how high or somewhat high HR departments or the participants see the capabilities of their organizations. And you see them ranked by the highest agreement at the top and the lowest agreement at the bottom. And let me give you a few kind of takeaways that stand out. So overall, I would say HR departments have at least some self-critical.
Philip, we cannot hear you. Could you unmute it? Here.
So somebody muted me again. Sorry. Steffi, where did it drop off?
Start again with the findings, I think.
Okay, with the findings. Okay. So the key takeaways on this perspective is there is some kind of self-critical perspective of the HR department. There's only 50% agreed that they have high or somewhat high capabilities overall. And a few still stand out. So the one that is really the highest agreement is health and safety. And Bob said in the beginning, we naturally also have a perspective on a longer time horizon, and that's really something that increased somehow. And most probably that's also due to the time when we operated the survey during the COVID-19 crisis, which is also a good thing, because probably health and safety was not always so much on the perspective of business side and HR perspectives. But I think it's a good sign that also in these difficult times, the capabilities really kind of increased or can cover topics that seem to have a high priority. The lowest capabilities, if you look at the other end of the scale, is very much in digital, AI, cloud, robotics. So everything that really brings an HR function and all the employee-centric processes to a new era. And that's also, I think, an important perspective if you go to the next page, when we split this overall ranking into the major countries or the major regions. And you basically see the one with the highest capabilities again at the top and those with the lowest capabilities at the bottom. And you see that this topic of digital information technology, so really digitizing the HR department and bringing a digital experience also to the employees, ranks basically bottom across all countries. And that really has a huge kind of consistency across global, regional, and specific country perspectives. Naturally, you have some kind of deviations in countries, but overall, this picture we would say is rather consistent across the globe, which is one also key highlight that we found. The second question, and I would move on, was to ask what's the future importance of these topics. So how important you think all these 32 are. And again, what you see here in the summary is the rating of high or somewhat high along all 32. Here, I think a few, again, takeaways. So the most important topics is people and HR strategy, which also gives, I think, a little bit of perspective on how to guide and orchestrate all these different topics, because you see they are all somehow important, and the ratings do not differ too much, but really having the right prioritization for the country, for the region, for the challenges of the company really requires an HR department to have a strategic perspective on it. And again, if you look at the lower part, you see a lot of the kind of traditional perspectives on HR shared services and kind of more the efficiency topics that still are there, but are not as seen as important as really the strategic and employee-centric topics that you find at the top. So that's the two major questions we asked. And again, here you see a rather consistent perspective across all the countries. If we now combine these two questions that we ask, we basically come to the core of our analysis. And Steffi, here you take over to highlight what is the areas of highest urgency to act.
Thank you, Philip. Exactly. So now the most interesting part comes up as we combine the current capabilities ranking with the future importance ranking to identify which topics actually should be on top of people management agendas and really priorities. So we have established this wonderful metrics that is the core of our study, and also those of you who already know the Creating People Advantage study, they might recognize this. On the x-axis there we have the current capabilities ranking from low to high, and on the y-axis the future importance ranking. And now we have those three colors, and the red one is really where then the most urgent topics are, as it's the topics where the organizations have low capabilities matched with a high importance in the future. So which topics lie here in the upper right corner? First of all, topics that have a very strong talent focus. So leadership, up and reskilling, strategic workforce planning, top talent management, and talent management. So in the ever intensifying competition for talent that is getting more and more critical, especially also digital talent. It's really necessary to have an approach to manage and also cultivate the talents you have. Also in the emergence of gig economy, where the talent management is not just the employed employees, but also gig workers, for example, and a hybrid workforce that needs to get managed, lies here. At the same time, HR must identify the skills that the company needs in the future and the talent the company or organization needs in the future, and also how to develop those. So this is the first group and area of urgent topics. Secondly, topics around digitization, as Philip already introduced. So HR, IT, but also people analytics and digital. Here's the reduced label to make it more digestible. That is necessary to improve and be really a value adding for businesses in the future. Thirdly, topics that we would cluster around the future of work. Here now is change management, smart work, organizational development, and agile principles, especially after COVID. Now new questions arise. Also new work processes need to be rethought, and changes need to get implemented. So now all of them together in one list, those are then the topics where we say there's a strong need to act. And out of this map of 32 topics, those are the ones where low capabilities are matched with a high future importance, and they should really be on top of people management agenda in the next years to come. Then we have this yellow field where we say, okay, there's a medium need to act. What does this say? On the one hand, it's topics where they are important in the future, but organizations already have relatively high current capabilities, or the topic isn't as important as other topics for the future. And those are the following. It's a quite long list. There's also this areas long, so should also be not forgotten, but just less priority than the red ones. And then lastly, where we say rather low need to act in comparison to the other topics, are the topics where the current capabilities are quite strong and the future importance is not as high. And here it's the employee relations and policy management. So rather traditional topics here where HR already has done a good job and is adequately set for the future. Besides this analysis on the topics, the rankings, the metrics, etc., in our Creating People Advantage survey this year, we also asked about the future role of HR. And here we wanted to understand, so what is the role of the HR function, and also actually looked at how HR versus non-HR respondents, so what their view is and where it maybe differs. And we presented the survey respondents several hypotheses on the future role of HR and asked them to what extent they apply to their organization. And here we see that non-HR respondents are really more hesitant to see HR as a strategic, innovative, and competent actor within the organization. Let's start with the left side. To the hypothesis, HR leaders demonstrate business acumen, making decisions based on long-term considerations and strategic needs of the organization. It's an agreement in general of 67%, quite high. However, 71% by HR, 54% by non-HR. So a quite big gap, which we saw especially in those questions on the future role of HR. Secondly, HR is a competent, innovative, and important actor in my organization that exerts considerable influence on strategic decision-making. Again, the split, I don't replicate again the numbers, where we see a split between HR and non-HR respondents, and the last one here where HR has dedicated teams focusing on deep expertise, also the split on the future role of HR. It doesn't mean now or how to interpret the results. So this is a mirror of the perception and of the responses we got, right? So it doesn't say HR does not have business acumen, for example, but that's how non-HR respondents perceive it. They perceive it less the way, and the same applies for the other two, right? So that's maybe a bit to interpret also the data. So every data point we get is just a perception of the questions we asked. Besides the role of HR itself within the organization, We also asked questions on the employees and to what extent an employee-centric HR is necessary for the future. And we found very strong agreement here. So 85% of all respondents say that focusing on employee needs and expectations is the key success factor in the competition for talent in the 2020s. And this is really the highest level of agreement in the whole study that we saw, really illustrating the importance of an employee-centered approach. How to become truly employee-centric? It's about offering personalized experiences also to the employee. However, seamless and personalized experiences are still hindered a lot by not sufficient digital tools and supporting HR IT system. So again, hypothesis we asked, the digital tools and implemented by my organization offer a seamless personalized experience that make everyday tasks easier. We have actually quite low agreement to this. So really not seen as that so far. And here also HR, non-HR is much more aligned and skeptical. Same applies for a strong HR IT system that facilitates those experiences. Yeah, these are just highlights of our analysis and study. And we also led more than 30 interviews with HR professionals and experts. And based on all the data, we derive the following 5 key actions to take for decision makers. And those are now these ones. And first of all, what we could also see in the results that we presented, really put your employees at the center. Organizations need to think of employees as a real customer also, and understand the needs and also address the needs along the journey even better. How to do this? By, for example, continuously collecting feedback, listen to the employees and focus the work on their needs, upgrade employee journeys, and also individualize career path and learning opportunities. Secondly, shape the future of work. This addresses especially the post-COVID world, right, where new models with remote work and flexible schedules appear, and also new requirements for the workplace and the workforce come up. So here we say a smart work strategy needs to be defined, and also employment options need to be rethought, the workforce structure itself, but also affiliation needs to be sharpened via the purpose and the culture to inspire employees in a rather hybrid or even virtual setup. Accelerate in digital. Here, as we could see in the data, the capabilities are comparatively weak, and to really enable this true future-proof workforce, but also workplace and the experiences, the IT basics need to get right, but also digital priorities should be identified to make a difference. Also improve the people analytics maturity, the data that you can derive from your employees to work with those. Set new paradigms for skills and employees to adjust to the new reality and really have the right people with the right skill set in place. So dynamically plan the workforce, also develop people and the skills you need by learning organization, and also this also applies for HR, so really enhance HR expertise. And lastly, with employees at the center, sound digitalization on board, HR functions need to transform and become the motor of this change, of this changing organization to truly serve the employee. And so here again, a strategy, HR and people management strategy is key, but also the target organization needs to be rethought. And people management is not merely an HR job, but also the managers need to get involved. So managers really need to become true people leaders to facilitate this change. So far from our side on the key results and insights. And we want to take more time to discuss those insights, also ask and answer your questions, and we'll now introduce our panel to open up the discussion. And I'm very happy and glad to introduce the following panelists to you today. representing BCG and the WFPMA. So we have Jean-Michel Kai, the Managing Director and Senior Partner, also part of this core study team. We have Evan Bolstad, President of the European Association, Raj Siprasad, Vice President of the African Continent Association, Berna, Board Member of the European Continent Association, and Lucas, Board Member of the WFPMA. Actually, all of those wear multiple hats. I just needed to limit here to one line, but all of you are very engaged in HR and people management. And after we've really run through the results very quickly, I'd go through introduce every one of you to reflect actually, and let's start with Berna. So which finding actually surprised you the most when you first heard about it and now heard it again?
Thank you, Stephanie. Well, I'm delighted to be here, by the way. It's a great pleasure to discuss these results and to witness from the first-hand presentation to these interesting results. Well, I was taking notes and I wrote that for digital AI and cloud, the capabilities are rated, not rated, but measured as 21%. On the other hand, again, for digital and AI, in the global ranking of 32 topics for future importance, it is ranked as 25th. So we came to a picture that we see AI, cloud, and digitalization in HR ranked as 12th on strong need to act list. And this is a surprise for me, because I think it is a quite low rating for this particular item. I was not expecting this. There might be a reason of this lower importance. Maybe the respondents prioritized and rated people analytics and reporting higher than digitalization and AI, but to me, they are all connected. Because let's think about what we have learned recently. We've all lived through significant changes in how we worked, how we interact, and how we live indeed. And automation and digitalization accelerated in a great deal. And AI is, I think, becoming a major game changer in talent acquisition, in development. And we experienced that automating the repeatable processes give HR the time to focus on the high impact areas. So if combined with augmented intelligence, I think it may have the potential to improve and even personalize the employee experience that we all talking about, discussing about. So technology tools are emerging. They could save capital for us, help us to smart source, and help us to realign the allocation of the resources. And they would help us to quickly upskill or even cross skills based on the competencies. So for me, AI would be a transformative force for HR, but only if we are prepared for it. And overlooking these possibilities may cost us losing a critical competitive advantage. And I think this rating somehow raised the question in my mind regarding whether HR is ready for AI, digitalization, and augmented intelligence or not.
No. Okay, Berna, so you would put this topic up in this red area, if I understand you correctly. Yeah. Okay.
Exactly. Thank you.
Thank you, Berna. Evan, to you, what surprised you the most when you heard about the results and saw them again?
Surprised or fascinated me. Philip mentioned it. It's the overall convergence. It's the convergence between countries, continents, and industries. It's much more convergent now than it was last study, and it might be a strength. Might be a consequence of globalization, companies and theories they travel around. And it might also be a consequence of fact-based learning process and making us all better. But at the same time, it might also be a warning sign. Are we looking at most common or best practice? So it's about covariance versus causality. Anyway, it's a fuel for reflections. It's a development tool what we have in front of us. But beware that best practices, they must be bundled and aligned, vertical and horizontally. Without consistency between strategy and HR and between HR activities, you might very well fail. And there might be fads in this. Virus theory, someone called it. We as HR associations and consultants, we must take responsibility on that. Remember Pfeffer, he said something like, uncritically moving one practice from one organizational environment to another is like a doctor transplanting an organ from one body to another without checking blood type. So study it in detail, embrace and investigate the underlying idea, and then adapt it to your own context. It's a dilemma. You cannot optimize everything in a VUCA flux world. That's impossible. Neither is it smart to reinvent the wheel each time. But as a wise guy, Otto von Bismarck once said, fools learn from experience. I prefer to learn from the experience of others. And I think there's something good in that.
Yeah. So as we do, right, to discuss the results, I think it's very important here, as you need to interpret, also explain, and also evaluate a bit how this, what this is a reflection for, right, and not make this, is a danger of just taking this as a causality, which is not. It's a reflection of the responses, right? Yeah, thanks a lot. Raj, I know we had a bit of audio problems, but let's try also to you, which findings actually, or finding did, is most pertinent to you? And let's try to unmute first, and then let's try whether the audio works.
Right, Emma, can you hear me?
Yeah, it's very good now, thanks.
Okay, firstly, I have to apologize. I was not really ready for this. And actually, I'm on sick leave and I've been through a very bad patch with this COVID-19 pneumonia. So something I'm just recovering from. In terms of the whole thing about innovation and digitalization, it's taken me by surprise, and I don't want to make too much comments on it, but there's one comment that I would make is undoubtedly, and on behalf of ERIC, is that you can digitalize, you can innovate, and you can do mechanize all processes, all situation. Sorry, I'm getting off of breath, but anyway, but one thing for sure, dealing on the people side of things, we're dealing with human beings, we're not dealing with machines. And therefore, I don't believe whatsoever that these processes dealt through mechanization or will actually help, because you still have to have that personal interaction with fellow people. And that's our view.
Yeah. Thank you, Raj. And Raj
really stepped
in last minute for his colleague who was not able to join. So thanks a lot, Raj, to bring in here your perspective.
No problem.
Thank you. Thank you. Continuing with our panelists and the different perspectives, Lucas, also to you. So we already heard now about the different views on the findings. What did you personally take out of it and think is most important of the insights and results?
Thanks, Stephanie, and a welcome to everybody here from out of the Netherlands at the start of the astronomic summer, although it's a bit cloudy today. But okay, no, back to, I think, some of the remarks earlier. I was quite taken and surprised by the outcome in current capabilities and also in the future ranking for digital. And I also concur with conclusions that is a pretty important thing for the future to keep up with. I do agree also, by the way, with Raj, that of course it doesn't make a lot of sense if people are not willing to cope with it, are not getting to adapt with it. And there's, I think, also a role for HR to help there. But I'm pretty optimistic that it will be a more high-ranked story into the future for many reasons. One of them is, I think, that the amount of investments in digital will increase, even also on the HR side, because many of the investments in the past were in the marketing side, and in the relation with the end customer, the CRM systems, the customer relation management systems, the loyalty systems. But now that amount of money is also coming into HR. So that is, I think, very important. The other thing, of course, is that there's a new generation knocking on the doors of the companies who are anyway more digital savvy than the current generations. And I would add finally also that also the COVID-19 really, I think, benefited the digital story whatsoever, because so many people were pushed into digital solutions, because if they weren't, it was really hard for them to keep up with the work. So I think McKinsey has said that this is already increasing the speed of digital solutions by at least 3 years. So I think a lot of reasons to be optimistic. On the other hand, it also means something for HR people itself, obviously, and also even to the current tools. For instance, if you take an average company all over the globe, it has around 1,000 people. It has 10 HR systems, and it means that every system has like 50 data fields. So we have millions and millions of data points in the hands of HR. What is HR doing with it? It's a treasure of data. You can do something with it. And that's, I think, also a big challenge for HR and for the future of HR to deal with that. So a lot of things to do, but I'm pretty optimistic.
Thank you, Lucas, for finalizing this introductory round. Jean-Michel, what did you take out of the results, and do you think is most important for the HR professionals?
Well, yes, thank you, Stephanie. Yes, well, in a few words, what I took out is, well, it's times. Those are times to disrupt. I mean, to make it very simple. I mean, the very good news is that it appears that HR has very well managed the pandemic, right? The topics of health, safety are at a good level. People think they mastered it, and I think they did. So that's a very good job done. Great. Now we are in front of a lot of revolutions, as you all have said, and as they reported here, and when you see the priorities for the future. I mean, we have the way we work, how we work is changing totally. We have to reorganize that. I mean, the task is a big one. The way we lead in hybrid context is also an urgent thing to cope with. Not only that, I mean, people expectations have changed dramatically with the COVID, but have already changed since years. We also have to disrupt in this domain, and then to take the points on digital and AI, the way we organize as HR. I think that, I mean, as BCG, we have made the study that we said, you know, in a few months' times, we have accelerated by 10 years the digital usages. So it's 10 years of acceleration in a few months' time. So guess what? Everybody is expecting that, you know, digital experience in relations, in customer relations, but also inside the company changes. So for all this, how we work, how we organize, how we lead, how we organize our function, how we respond to people expectation, those are times to disrupt, and that's very interesting times for HR.
Yeah, and a lot to do. Actually, also, we said a lot HR, but also non-HR, and the leaders are important to make this change possible, right? And Berna, you said you would put the digital on top, but actually on top of the strong need to act is the leadership. So the leadership topic as a very strong need to act, leadership development and behavior, how we call it. So what's your comment on this one then? Do you accept that this is the priority also? Do you agree with this?
I do. This one is, I do agree wholeheartedly indeed. And it is the second place, I think, isn't it? Right after people and HR strategy in the global ranking for future importance. So, yeah, I do agree. And well, leaders were very much challenged last year, and leaders will continue to be challenged in the future and even in now. And well, they found themselves making business critical decisions in unfamiliar circumstances. And although some dust has settled, leaders still need to face a global recession, flooding, business targets, changing business models, and the hybrid working environments. So I don't think that all effective leaders can transfer their skills into these new worlds. So it means that leaders who are holding the compass to lead their organizations to the future need urgent support, and HR should be there to support. And leaders need a strong awareness about what's going on all around. They need a quick upskilling and reskilling to meet the requirements of the environment, and they need assistance to make peace with the new paradigm shifts about people management. So I think that HR needs to take strong initiatives and even disruptive ones, as said before, to support the management to provide the right leadership to the organization. As I said, there is a certain need for upskilling and reskilling for all levels of leaders to me. And it is also not only about learning and development, it is also about maybe a complete review of leaders fit for today and tomorrow, also for the leaders succession review. Again, but on the basis of value and purpose fit, maybe this time. So HR needs to take strong initiatives and should assist and ask and force for better governance, better diversity and inclusion mindset, better corporate sustainability, and the transformation of culture into the new world via leaders. So it is I agree with you on that one as well. It is a long to-do list for them.
Yeah. And especially this relationship with the business, right? So with the leaders, but also with business is always in the center and very important. And we saw this also when we looked at the results. So how HR or non-HR is looking at the results. So Lucas, what do you think, which contextual circumstances in organizations could change or should change to really make HR function, provide value to the business and improve maybe this relationship even further?
Yeah, I think it's a triangle story, basically, between HR, the management or the leadership, and employees itself. And we'll come to the story of employees a bit later. But as we all know, business issues are basically people issues. There is not a real contradiction between it. And I think everybody in the organization has to take care of the human condition. I guess all of us know that a couple of days or weeks ago, very recently, there was a new report of the World Competitiveness Study out of Switzerland. And then you see the highest ranking countries in the world in terms of competition. And there's a lot of HR into that kind of reports. It goes back to good leadership. It goes back to good relations, good teamwork, all of that. Of course, we all of us have said that before. We do live in a changing world, but I think the other story is how can we deal with change without eroding values as we have them? The values for the people, the values of being ethical, the values of integrity, of identity, a sense of belonging, the building of our communities. And that, of course, is a dilemma, how to do that. But nobody has said that this is an easy job. So I think there's a lot of effort for all of us to do that. And back to, I think, also what Evan has said about leadership, I really agree with that, because I think that leadership basically is an exchange of meaning and trust. And that is, I think, a very important thing, which not only goes for HR, but it also goes for the individual person in an organization. That person can also take leadership, and also for the managers who by definition has to take leadership. So if we do all of that well, I think we have a pretty good chance to maneuver to many changes still to come, and to, I would say, assure the human condition in our organizations. Yeah.
The big vision also you just explained on the also future role of HR, right? Which is one really key part we also address in the study. Evan, also regarding this future role of HR and what this should comprise. What's your vision here?
That's a big question. If I should choose one word, I would say integration. It's about integrating perspectives. Definitely HR is a company function providing value to customers and owners. And HR professionals, they must be selected, trained, and teamed with this in mind. But we know that people, they thrive and are attracted to high-performing organizations. So it's a win-win with the interests of the employees. We want development, all of us. We want good workplaces, and we want financial outcome. And there's a layer above that also. Then I think that will grow in importance. It's about the company and people agenda versus CSR and the societal role. It's, as you said, Lucas, it's value-based and value-driven with business impact. It's about interdependence with a well-functioning community. So, and I think you also mentioned that word, Lucas, which is trust. Trust, and I will add reciprocity, to understand, respect, utilize, and reinforce, wishing each other well. I mean, the golden rule is, in various forms, is a part of all world religions, and there's a reason for that. And to drive change, that has maybe got some kind of negative stigma, because if you feel that change is driven without seeing a positive outcome or future for oneself, you will not be a part of that travel. So, and integration also goes with professionals and functions. It's about within the department, we talk about ambidextrous competencies. We are stronger together than one and one. It's line versus staff. It's integrating with shop stewards. It's about a mixture of competencies. HR is a road cross. It's integrated, interdependent, balanced, but at the same time focused. We talk about CSR, marketing, technology, finance, psychology, strategy, logistics. Everything is in that road cross. And if we are going to live in that road cross, I think we must also have a wider perspective and talk more about capabilities, which is more, that is more than those on your salary list. It includes service provider and Berna, it's tech, if infrastructure is an integrated part of that. If we do not take that overall holistic perspective, I'm afraid we will slide back to personnel again. So I think that it's a huge opportunity for HR, and I'm so happy also to partner up and integrate this perspective with the one which traditionally, stereotypically is linked to the BCG, because we come from each side, but we are totally dependent on each other, and people mean business. If we're going to drive AEY, we know that people are still a limiting factor on technology. So everything is interconnected to everything. And I think we will see more of that in the future.
Thank you, Evan, for this broad perspective. And we also, so you also mentioned it, and actually again and again, we heard about how COVID also influenced this whole role and the situation we are in, and also how to interpret the results. So Raj, also, so what impact do you see of COVID-19 now in the results, but also in general on HR already now, or maybe for the future?
Talked about disruption, but it's maybe even more about acceleration, because what we are doing now is what leading thinkers have been talking about for 20, 30 years, but we just haven't had the time to develop. And suddenly we had no choice, and we did it within 2 weeks. So it's again, it's about this burning platform combined with a positive outcome for each and one of us. We saw that there was an opportunity for us to grow and make ourselves a better future. And suddenly things just moved on in a speed which has been wonderful to look at. So it's about we have trained our change muscle now. It's about keep on moving without any kind of burnout or fatigue or whatever might be ahead of us. But change is basically positive. That is what has brought us ahead for generations. And we just have to drill it down to the individual perspective. What's in it for me? I think that's important.
Yeah, thank you. We are very glad to have this very global panel, actually. So Norway, Evan, Berna from Turkey, Raj, South Africa. So maybe to bring this also in, and Raj here also on the COVID-19 implications, be it on the future role, but also on the topics. Where do you see here, especially an impact, or how it shifts priorities?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, yeah, basically just a couple of things. And what Evan has said, I'm inclined to agree with him on quite a number of issues. Obviously, I'll be speaking more on the issue of being more biased, but leaders need to understand organizations don't create value, people create value. And when we think about this whole COVID-19 pandemic, this has come and affected all of us across the world. And as a result, we need to actually build a level of empathy in dealing with this, irrespective, because I've become a victim of the COVID-19. But the same token, I think our line management are the worst when it comes to have empathy towards employees in terms of this whole managing this entire situation. And likewise, Evan spoke about the trade union and shop stewards. You need to build that type of relationship on the ground in order to try and deal with these issues, because this is all about trust. Trust is fundamental in any relationship. And with COVID-19, it has really taken all of us back. Reality is that it's created so much of havoc that one doesn't really know which way to look, and we're just hoping that this thing just disappears. But the same token, high absenteeism, people are unable to actually, sorry, I just get out of breath. People are unable to be at work, excessive sick leave, all types of things. And in my case, I'm 6 months now sitting at home, just out of hospital with this entire thing and trying to recover. So I think we as HR professionals need to guide our management, line management, etc., on dealing with this thing from an empathetic point of view. Sorry, I'm really battling at the moment because generally the breathing is a problem. Yeah. But nonetheless, we're talking about people, HR becoming part of the business strategy, being part of the driving business results. An important point is when you think of what Jim Collins said, that old adage of people being the most important assets is no longer true. In fact, the right people are the important assets. And the reality is, before our transformation from good to great is to actually look at the right people on the right seats in the bus and remove those who are not right. So that is what we need to be driving towards in order to become business partners. And taking into account this entire thing or the pandemic that we're going through, this is a time that we need to start looking at how best we can manage the situation, and with a minimal of staff wherever it is necessary, but at the same time dealing with future aspects of where we can take the business.
Yeah. Thank you, Raj, for this perspective also, and again for joining today in this special context. Time flies, and we have so many topics we couldn't cover, but this is also meant to be a teaser and to put some appetite for the final report that will come out and all the results and details. Maybe Jean-Michel, why should people read it, and why is this PA study so important? Maybe to close our panel here.
Come on, I mean, that's obvious. That's the best study ever. I mean, you can find on HR. This is obvious. I mean, this is the mirror of the HR community. There are more than 6,000 responses. It gives us, the view on the priorities. It gives us the evolution of those priorities, because we have an history since 2008. So you can, really put this in perspective. It can only enlighten you on things that need to change. You will see also the progress that the HR function has made, towards how line is perceiving HR. Still a lot of progress. I don't sleep, guys. But there are many things that you will see that are so interesting. You need to read that one.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you all panelists for sharing your thoughts in this discussion. And let's wrap this up with a final thank you from Bob and Jens, and also Evan as representing the European Association. I don't know who wants to start.
I'll kick off if you like.
Sure.
I think one of the messages, first of all, thanks to the panel for their insights and really fascinating range of comments here. I think for me, one of the big messages in listening to everybody is it really is critical to contextualize this into your own particular environment and look at which of these things are most important in your particular setting. I think the other thing it raises for me is that we need to continue to press for the professional development of HR people. We need to adapt to the future and look at our qualifications, programs, everything else to ensure we build the capabilities for the future. But just for me, a huge thank you to first of all to BCG for the immense amount of effort and support and work that's gone into this and the levels of expertise. I would also like to thank all of the World Federation Continental Associations and their national members who've really pressed hard to make this the largest survey on record of its type. And also respondents who completed the survey. I hope they've had enough of the teaser to say, right, we need to now look at the detail. And believe you me, there are some terrific detail and insights into this report. So thank you very much for all of those of you who've attended. And I look forward to further comments on your reading the report. Thank you. Jens.
Yes, I can just also say thank you to everybody. Thanks for the collaboration. Thanks for participating, both in the survey, but also today in the webinar. And I think after more than 1.5 years in a crisis situation, in a situation where we are transforming into a new way of working, I think there's one function who's really in the center of this transformation. It's HR. Yeah, and there are so many urgent and relevant topics. And I think this study is really, as Jean-Michel said, it's the most comprehensive HR study in the world. And what we are intending to do is to help to give you guidance on setting the right priorities, learn from others, and finding your way into the new future. And I think hopefully we created some excitement. End of June, the final report comes out, and then there's a lot to read and really to reflect about for your daily work.
Yeah.
In a world of fragmentation and increased distrust, and without becoming totally Monty Python, meaning of life, I think more and more of us are looking for purpose. And there's a shared interest. Better workplaces and better lives come together with earning money and providing better societal services for the public sector. So I think a great job has been done. We know that of all C-suite profiles, successful chief HR officers are the profiles most identical to the CEO profiles. It's about people and business. So I would say thank you very much. 6,000 of you took your time to fill in the scheme. Colleagues around the world, national association, regional umbrella association, those who have been interviewed, those of you who have shared insights at this event. Last but not least, our partners at the BCG. You have done a massive job. It has been, as I said in a meeting we had last week, it has been Qualität und Struktur. It has been, you have done a fantastic job, and I am highly impressed by what has been done. Read the study. It's great.
A bit over time, but maybe just the most interesting thing now, how to get this study, right? And,
yeah, I mean,
yeah.
Steffi, I mean, you can close it, I can close it. Yeah? I mean, as said, it was a sneak preview today. Yeah? So it was an exclusive kind of first glimpse into the study that is not published yet. Yeah? So you need to kind of withhold a couple of days until June 30th, until the final publication date. All that you are still online and part of the webinar will get it by email anyway. But you will then also hear more from us with the study, and yeah, keep the next 4 days in kind of waiting mode and be happy to then read the entire breadth of our findings. Thanks for your participation and attendance, and have fun reading the report.
Thank you very much, and have a good day. Have a good week. Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.